The CCP's media lied about the bumper harvest. China's actual food imports in September reached 40.62 million tons, which was an increase of 16% year-on-year.
The Bank of China's party committee pledged loyalty to the CCP. This is the biggest financial risk.
The CCP's leader preached about the spirit of fighting against the U.S. during the Korean War. He wanted to brainwash the people and let them sacrifice for the dictatorship.
The CCP's official media slammed the U.S. over an incident of pollution at a U.S. military base in Japan, but they never mentioned a word about how heavily polluted mainland China is under the totalitarian regime.
The Three Gorges Dam project was started in 1994, but the overall inspection work of the construction wasn't finished until November 1, 2020. The CCP's style of construction is ridiculous.
In October 1980, Chen Chunxian proposed the idea of building Zhongguancun as China's Silicon Valley. 40 years later, on November 1, 2020, the Zhongguancun Electronic City was shut down.
Communist China's customer office frequently detected viruses on the packaging of imported seafood. In the meantime, Zhang Boli, who is not a virus expert, made irresponsible comments on the virus.
Tao Shu of Peking University, an academician of Chinese Academy of Sciences, blamed the pollution in China on the hard-working farmers burning fuel for heating and cooking.
Because they raised objections against the current Internal Affairs Committee Chair Li Huiqiong in Hong Kong Legislative Council on May 8 this year, 7 opposition lawmakers were arrested on November 1st.
Shandong's Health Commission announced on October 29th that a nurse in Qingdao was confirmed to have contracted the CCP virus. A new round of mass virus testing has quietly started.
Cases of CCP-Virus were found in Taishan City, Guangdong. Investigations have been initiated.
At 8 p.m. October 31st, the People's Government of Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, the press office held a press conference on the Kashgar epidemic. At the meeting, Gu Yunshu, Deputy Director of the Health Commission, reported the latest situation of the epidemic in Kashgar. From 1200 hours on October 30th through 1800 hours on 31st, Xinjiang reported 61 new asymptomatic cases. Among them, 46 cases were in Shufu County, 15 cases in Kachka Township of Kezusu, adjacent to Shufu County. By 1800 hours on October 31st, there are 51 confirmed cases in Xinjiang. All confirmed cases are reclassified asymptomatic cases. 222 cases of asymptomatic infections were from Shufu County and Akto County.
CCP instills hate education in children. The CCP's military brainwashing of children is no different from the Taliban's training of children as human bombs.
The insurance company doesn't care about the people. Look, folks, the insurance company came saying that there's nothing wrong with this land, it will not affect farm production. The land was washed away by water, it was full of wood and stones, there will be no harvest.
In Pingshan County, Sichuan Province, a seller sold 30 tons of frozen pork in the stock at a high price. The pork was unquarantined, containing the African swine fever virus. Sellers sold the pork as a national reserve meat. Huang Xidong, police officer of Pingshan County Public Security Bureau, we took 15 samples for testing, of which 8 were positive for African swine fever. Some nearby retail store owners and bacon processing factories also purchased porks from this seller.
Look, this is my own money. They just won't let me take it out. Recently in Zhangjiakou, a citizen whose parents passed away was asked by the bank to prove that he's the only legal heir before he can withdraw his parents' bank deposit. However, he was hitting blocks with the community office, with his employer, and with the notary office. This certificate issued by an employer is not acceptable. It does not meet the requirement. Chinese netizens commented, "Is this the bank or are they the mafia?"
Yang Henan, a school forced students to destroy their cell phones. The CCP's education harms the people. Principal Luo said, first of all, we allow students to bring cell phones, but the prerequisite is students must hand over their cell phones to the class teacher for safekeeping. The teacher will return the phone to the students on weekends when they go home. However, students are not allowed to play cell phones in private, so you have to throw your phone into the water yourself. We have 1,000 students, only 5 students were caught breaking the rules at that time. Those students are middle school or high school students. Those are all high school students. They are voluntary. After our explanation, he's willing to say we are students and we are willing to say goodbye to cell phones and study hard. On the other hand, we look at this matter from another angle. We can make thousands of other students not asking their parents for cell phones but punishing very few students. Can we say that we have saved the parents a lot of money? What did the parents say about that? Parents absolutely support it. If parents don't like it, the student won't be willing to do so. After all, the cell phone costs several thousand RMB, so it shouldn't be handled like that.
Strange sightings continue to emerge across China, signaling imminent demise of the CCP dynasty. On October 31, 2020, in Harbin, Heilongjiang province, what is this flying object in the sky?
Guangdong Province, 11 directors and the deputy directors of the Public Security Bureau have been dismissed this year. The CBC has increased its internal purge.
Since April 12, 2020, Taiwan has maintained a record of 0 new cases of COVID-19 on the island for more than 200 days in a row. Taiwan's successful model against the pandemic resulted from the transparency and the universal precautions made possible under the island's democratic ideals.
在 COVID-19 之后呢，我们人类的生活一定会不一样。没有一个国家可以安安心心的过正常的生活，认为不会有 COVID-19， 除非每一个国家都没有 COVID-19。
新冠肺炎主要的症状是发烧，还有呼吸道的症状。有些病人会有嗅觉或是味觉的改变，或者是不明原因的腹泻。严重的话，可以进展到呼吸衰竭或是呼吸窘迫。
台湾在这一次 COVID-19 的防疫成果呢，最主要是有3个重要的因素。第一个因素呢，就是审慎以对；第二个因素呢，就是迅速应变；第3个就是超前部署。
The National Legal Policy Center filed a complaint about the unreported Chinese donations to the Department of Education. $70 million? That's just from when he announced to the University of Pennsylvania. Do we even know what they did with the money? And is there any indication which Chinese were paying it?
Yeah, we really don't know. There's at least $22 million of that in the last couple of years that are anonymous. And one big one was $14.5 million given in May of 2018, about the time that the University of Pennsylvania opened the Biden Center. So it's curious that University of Pennsylvania is getting all this money from China, a lot of it anonymous, and we're trying to find out how much of that is being funneled to the Biden Center. Plus, Joe Biden got paid $900,000 just before he ran, teaching a couple courses there, a couple classes, I should say, and making a couple of appearances, which is unbelievable amount of money.
It's now been revealed that the FBI has opened a money laundering investigation into Hunter Biden and his associates. This is the first confirmation we are getting that starting back in 2019, the FBI opened this investigation. So why now? Why would the government confirm this investigation into Hunter Biden? The answer is because it wants to take the focus away from Joe Biden and the real issue. Has Joe Biden been compromised by the Communist Party of China? That should be the main concern of every American. Does China control Joe Biden? The evidence appears to be that it is certainly possible, if not probable, and that alone would disqualify Joe Biden, certainly of his security clearance, and certainly make him a national security threat if, God forbid, he ever became president. You see, the FBI knows all of this, and those loyal to the Biden, Obama, Clinton axis of corruption are now trying to make the Hunter laptop all about money, not Joe Biden and national security.
An email sent to a top advisor of Vice President Biden about Devin Archer, who was also on the board of Burisma with Hunter Biden. I guess it was a 2-for-1 deal. I don't know. The email attached a news article about a corruption issue involving Devin Archer, his being involved in fraud. I think he was convicted at the time he'd been arrested at the time for a $60 million fraud scam, allegedly. Mm-hmm. Now he's facing sentencing over. So when you look at all this, it's pretty clear that the deep state, Vice President Biden, all knew about Burisma and the various issues around it.
And Joe Biden is a partner in this operation. This is the one in which you have the memorandum, the hidden memorandum that says 2H, 10% for the big guy. You then go on and find 2 more emails in which Hunter describes his father, says, my father is the big guy. And then we have Mr. Bobulinski, who testifies that Joe Biden is referred to as the big guy. And just in case you have any problem with it, when they open the office, joint office between the Bidens and the Chinese Communist Party company, Joe Biden is given the first key and Jill Biden is given the second key.
Yeah.
You want to go further?
As far as
then there's a $5 million forgivable loan made to the Bidens. Now, what's a forgivable loan? It's a loan you don't pay back, otherwise known as a laundered payment. Well, that goes into one account, then into a second account, then into a third account, which happens to be Hunter Biden's company, and we have a text message that says that Hunter Biden shares half of that with his father. So I don't know what you need. I just proved the case. I'm happy to go to court with it anytime you want.
I don't know what more you would need either.
Is a threat to the national security of this country, and 80% of the media is blocking that from the American people. I don't know what you call that, but this is about the scummiest thing they've ever done.
If you want to go back to you, BHR, Bohai, is the private equity fund. That's the one Schweitzer identified in Secret Empires back in 2017. It's at $1.5 billion. But as Jack Maxey's brought up, it's so much bigger than that. It's got other partners, other limiteds, and the level of deals they've done is extraordinary. But they had an idea. The idea was this was the CCP was going to use this in a relationship with Joe Biden to basically span the world, do deals with these Americans. Walk us through it.
Sure. Well, in short, the Biden family crime syndicate, that's Biden, that's Archer, that's Joe, that's their entire political network and all the capital they've built in D.C. for decades. That's John Kerry in Senate Foreign Relations and then Secretary of State. These guys knowingly aided and abetted the CCP's economic imperialism play to weaken the USA and the West. We talk about Huawei as a backdoor into Intel networks as the telco giant during a 5G build-out, an arms race going on globally where the CCP subsidized them and delivered cheaper products. Well, this is what these guys were helping do doing across Sinopec, a major energy company, $60 billion market cap on the New York Stock Exchange. They did not need to do $1 billion or $700 million, whatever number they settled on, raise in the West. They did that to get into the West, to build those networks, to build out their long-term plans with One Belt, One Road, to economically imperialize the developed market world in Europe, in the U.S. These guys, BHR, Bohai Harvest, which, $1.5 billion from the CCP connected business apparatchiks, they had a mandate to go out there and basically lobby without FARA registration. They were representing CCP businesses, state-owned enterprises. These are not free market competitive players. And one of the coups they did, and by the way, they got $1.5 billion signed in Max Baucus, Obama's ambassador to Beijing, former senator of Montana, friends with Devin Archer, a Montanan as well, connected to Kerry and to Biden. They signed that deal in his office, and they created a coup. They got a big company that the Chinese wanted. They got Hennigs Automotive in Michigan, a manufacturer that made both OEM car parts but also military parts. And so it was a strategic play, and it needed an approval from a congressional panel, just like Hillary Clinton needed to approve Uranium One before that was sold indirectly to Rosatom, the Russian nuclear giant. And there was a huge scandal over that and backdoor pay. Well, here they were doing the same thing. They were lobbying to get that $600 million deal done. They do a victory lap. Who owns it now? AVIC, a military umbrella group for aviation contractors for the CCP. This is really national security implicating stuff. This is very dangerous. And they were lobbying without FARA registration to get these kind of things done, the economic imperialism of the CCP.
So
I'm sorry.
Hang on. So Todd, you've been at the forefront of pushing this and publishing other things. Tell me, where's Creative Destruction Media? How do people get to it? And tell me overall, what else with Tierman are you guys going to be putting forward on this?
Well, cdm.press is our short link, and you're right. We put out over almost 100 articles since last November on Biden, crime, family, corruption, mainly in Ukraine, but it's spreading into other areas. What shocks me is the breadth and the scope of this. And we've been going through these emails for 2 weeks, all of us, and we're just now figuring out how big this is. I mean, Joe Biden's running around with his granddaughter, but he sold out his granddaughter. He sold out his whole family. And what did Obama know? Obama told Joe not to run. So why? Maybe he knew what was going on.
Why do you say that? What evidence? All of a sudden you're putting a tinfoil hat on? What evidence do you have of anything of Obama? Why would Obama even be brought up?
I'm bringing that up because he told Joe not to run. That's the only thing that just strikes my mind. You're saying that in the form? You're saying it in this thing of corruption. You think that's tied to? You think Obama and the White House were nervous about those relationships? You think Brennan or anybody told him about it? Yes or no? I've seen what's going on in Ukraine, and I've seen the corruption throughout the State Department, the CIA, the FBI, all of it. And there's no way Obama could not know what was happening.
I mean, that somehow in these years that they had it, somehow somebody had to know. Jack Maxey, you got a pensive look on your face. What do you think?
Well, as Faddis said, there's no way that our signal intelligence, there's no way our CIA, our DIA, our FBI was not in some way aware about this. Now, they may have had their reasons for not moving forward. It could turn out that Hunter Biden is the greatest CIA agent in history and is going to collapse the Democratic Party and the CCP as a result of his covert efforts. But I don't think so. One thing that I want to say that is very important about that Bohai Harvest deal, and they bought that Hanson Automotive out in Detroit. Hennigs, forgive me. They describe in their annual meeting notes from March of 2018 or 2019
that we've put up online
that we've got that they are going to have a real trouble going forward because all of the European countries are onto them, and the Europeans put lifetime liability on a private corporation that is sold to basically like the CCP. They tried to buy something called Minmetals Corporation. From Minmetals, a Chinese corporation, was trying to buy the Stark Group. Now, the reason for this was the Stark Group was the producer of high-tech metal powders for coating everything from a tank to a pen. And then they also tried to buy a company in Sweden that had this vacuum technology and another company in Germany that had lenses for military uses. All three of those countries denied the sale on national security purposes.
Huge.
Two of the
Huge.
They're both NATO allies.
Huge.
And China is a Five Eyes ally.
Huge.
And they claim they cannot sell this to a state entity.
China's not a Five Eyes ally.
Germany is. And
no, I'm saying the other countries. You said
yes,
China.
The
other
countries
are Five
denied
Eyes.
it are Five Eyes
Five
allies.
Eyes. That means we're united in the intelligence.
So if they denied it on intelligence reasons, guess what? They shared that intelligence with us, and we kept playing the game.
Matt, we got a couple of minutes here. Matthew, where's the reporting going on this? I want to tell the audience, I understand there's a lot of detail, but we're trying to hit you. People say, well, there's no evidence. We're giving you a tsunami of evidence. We understand it's going to take a while to sort it all out. What you know is that this is a crime syndicate that has an internal business logic to it. These are just not random events. Tierman, where's your reporting going?
Well, I like to use primary source material and get very in the weeds and detailed. So we got a big report on Todd's website at CDM Media, and it links to a Scribd account that I put up where I put the emails, I put the PowerPoints, I put press releases. So we got primary source material. Don't take my word for it. Go look through their marketing materials and their language. The classic CCP. They're building social capital, which is a buzzword for political capital. They did not need fungible cash equity capital. They were looking for influence. They were doing it without lobbying disclosures by using the Biden crime family syndicate.
Other than that, what is more important is this year's U.S. election will also affect the fate of Chinese people. Because as you know, on this earth, the direction mankind is headed is mainly decided by America. If freedom of speech is lost even in the USA, then the 1.4 billion Chinese people can forget about making any sort of comebacks in the near future. And we will fall into another 1,000 years of dark age. You can go back and take a look at how did Europe end up in 1,000 years of darkness during the Middle Ages. Therefore, this coming election, even if you don't have the right to vote, you are still a part of it. Because the result of the election will also affect us. Our 1.4 billion Chinese has already been abused and exploited by the CCP for 70 years. No free speech. Or as Mr. Milesguo puts it, living lives worse than pigs and dogs. Now Hong Kong has fallen to the CCP. Many other countries and EU have also fallen. If in this U.S. election, the CCP wins through their dark and evil methods and takes the driver's seat again, I mean, the CCP already controls the Wall Street, mainstream media, and Hollywood. We talked about it yesterday. In Hunter Biden's hard drives, the music band Coldplay is involved. Some of the top Hollywood stars, such as certain Gaga, they're all in there. Mulan and Jingtian can go and star in Hollywood movies as they wish. Very few ordinary people understand the significance of all this.
The U.S. has surpassed 9.3 million coronavirus cases. The Times reports Boris Johnson may consider new UK lockdown. Washington state tops 1,000 daily COVID-19 cases for the first time since July. Singapore reported 12 new COVID-19 cases as of noon on Saturday. Malaysia reports 659 new COVID-19 cases. Brazil health minister hospitalized after testing positive for COVID-19. Belgian Prime Minister Alexander De Croo announced Friday that the strict new lockdown measures will be imposed on the country for 6 weeks starting Sunday night. Lockdowns cast a shadow over strong Eurozone economic rebound.
Dear mama, are you okay over there? Your son is crying and missing you, and sees you in his dreams. You said take down the CCP, cause it's God's will, it's God's will. So I'll wait for you, and I'll see you when we end the CCP, yeah.